Good evening everyone, and we're back in the WHATIF 1 in 72nd Malagasy world. Now, medium helicopters have kind of been neglected by me in many ways. One of the reasons for that is basically at one time I really just felt, well, the CH-47 Chinook pretty much does it all, so why do you need medium helicopters? Which is a fair point, because really I could go from the AB412 straight to the CH-47s and that would cover pretty much everything you need. However, recently I'm preparing for Operation Bunny Hop. I have revisited the Super Puma, which was my medium helicopter. So my lineage in the WHATIF world goes CH-46 and Wessex HU5 into the Puma and then into the Super Puma. So that's my lineage. Now, the Pumas took over from the Wessexes. The CH-46 served for longer, and then they went into the Super Pumas. So the Super Puma in its base form has been in service from the mid 1990s, around that time, taking over from a small procurement of original Pumas which weren't well liked, and really the CH-46 continued to serve in the battlefield role, with the Pumas picking up general support role. Now, it's worth saying that these are both helikits and these are the AS532. So these are slightly longer fuselaged versions than the original ones, because you've got this window here, you've got a fuselage stretch, and there is actually a window underneath this door cabin window. I'll show you on this side. There it is. So these are stretched versions. Now, this one has been in my collection for some time. This one has been unbuilt in my collection for some time, and I finally built them. Now, what I've found with these helicopters is basically technology advance is so quickly that the base kit itself becomes out of date. And here is another Hela 1-2 build. And as you can see, if we look at the box art for this Hela aircraft, we see 0 missile alert warning systems, 0 chaff and flare, 0 countermeasures, 0 forward-looking infrared. So really, you're looking at a very basic helicopter. So the modifications to make this helicopter relevant for modern day is adding the missile alert warning systems, adding a forward-looking infrared at the minimum, or one on the side, adding your chaff and flare dispensers here, missile alert warning systems here and up here to cover all your angles. And then you can take it that you need a winch if you're going to be picking anyone up, because the basic kit comes without winch, without countermeasures, without forward-looking infrared, without pretty much everything you need to stay alive in the modern day. It also comes with half of the big sponsons and half of them missing, which is a real shame. So the big sponsons allow the carriage of more fuel and flotation bags, and then some of the Super Pumas have flotation bags underneath. Now, model names always get really difficult to understand with the Super Puma, but basically this model of Super Puma has this stretch here, and then it has this little area above there. Now, on the original Puma, that as well as a ladder, and there's like a little hatch thing there, but it's a void, so you can throw your Bergens and stuff in there, but this is the crew compartment. And then as they've made newer and newer versions, they basically add fuselage plugs here and get longer and longer. And then you get to the EC725, the Caracal, which has a refueling probe on it. And that's basically the French combat search and rescue helicopter. So that is, if you like, the Puma's development. This is marked as the AS332M1, which it is. I think it will also do the 532, but then it won't go any further, because of course they keep getting longer and longer and longer and longer. More powerful engines as well. So the Malagasy forces use this AS332M1 upgraded Now with my procurement, I look at what's called a baseline, baseline plus and advanced. So in the medium helicopter world, does it have a rev radar? No, up to baseline plus. Forward looking infrared, yes for baseline plus. Night ops MVG, well even the baseline can do MVG night ops. Countermeasures, and here you've got basic and theatre entry standard. So what I've done with this grey Super Puma here, and I apologise the lighting isn't great because it's raining tons, but this grey one is now theatre entry standard. So we've got forward looking infrared, missile alert warning systems here, we've got chaff and flare dispensers here, missile alert warning system here and here. And then on the far side, we've got the single chaff and flare because you've got the tail rotor. We've got a winch, GPMG door guns, more missile alert warning systems, and then that forward-looking infrared. So this is baseline plus specification. This one is still in the baseline specification. And yes, it's got some countermeasures rubbed off on an H90 there. The NH90 was meant to replace the Super Puma, but it was a disaster. So it was given to Oilem in the WHATIF world. But really, there's no missile alert warning system. It's got sort of a night sun slash night flying thing underneath again from an NH90 and a winch. But that is very much a baseline helicopter. So I'm upgrading all of mine and working through the new builds to baseline plus. So I'll have 3 baseline plus and 1 baseline Puma. Now, as the helicopter sizes increase, and the reason why the Puma, I believe, has still got relevance to my force is this is a CH-53 DM, modernised Malagasy. It's got the forward-looking infrared, missile alarm warning systems. But size-wise, when you start to look at the heavy helicopters, you can see that really the place of the medium helicopter is you can ship 2 mediums for 1 heavy. So logistics wise and your footprint wise, these do have some benefits to them. Now the downside is obviously that CH-53 can carry 9 tons, the Chinook up to 12. So as the helicopter's bigger, things get bigger in my procurement world. Things which are, if you like, additional to the medium and light helicopters have to be fitted as standard to the heavy helicopters. So they are all baseline plus models. In-flight refueling remains optional across the range because you do get some Pumas which can carry refueling probes. The CH-53, my fleet always carries them, and the MH-53, but the Chinooks, only the special operations ones do. Secure radios, well, that's a must now for everything baseline to baseline plus to advanced. Satcoms, baseline plus should have it. Advanced should have it, and the latest standard. So I'm basically working through everything to the latest standard. And what that means is that when my forces deploy in Operation Bunny Hop, they will have the latest standard heavy helicopters, the latest standard medium helicopters, and see my earlier video today on the latest standard light helicopters. So this is how I plan to structure the force. So the light helicopter will be or light utility, I should say, will be the UH-1Y in baseline plus configuration. The medium helicopters, Super Puma in baseline plus. The heavy helicopters, and here we've got a mix. The CH-53 DMs are quite elderly airframes, even though they are upgraded. So these will serve until 2030. At that point, the whole of the heavy fleet will probably become Chinook only, because the CH-47F is an advanced standard. It's got weather radar, it's got DIR-CM countermeasures, as do these, upgraded there, but it's a new airframe. And then I'm moving the MH-53 EMs from the CSAR, I'm moving those over to the super heavy, which is your 15-ton payload. So that's what I'm doing with the fleet. But in the meantime, I need to work through all of these Super Pumas, with the exception of this one, which I'm going to keep as it is, and do them all in the new baseline plus configuration. Now it's worth noting, because I do have a naval Super Puma, that I've done this one with the bigger sponsons from that heli kit. I've added the GPMGs from Butler's printed models on the mounts, and this forward looking infrared is on plasticard, and that's from a AliExpress HJ10 Chinese 4D printed puzzle, £4.22. You get 2 of those for £4.22. So that gives me the forward looking infrared system. So that's what I'm doing with the medium helicopters, and when Operation Bunny Hop commences, there will be 4 of these, 3 of these to the baseline plus, 1 to the baseline, 6 Chinooks and 4 UH-1Ys, giving me the lift that I need for Operation Bunny Hop. So I hope that has brought you up to date with what I'm doing. I've got a few more helicopter builds I want to do, and then it's time for the C-17, and I'm also building that boat. Take care. Goodbye.